Now, we followed the art of the academies from their beginnings right during the end of the Renaissance, all the way through a few hundred years up into the 19th century. And they really dominated the art scene all that time. If you wanted to be successful as an artist, if you wanted to be considered and have your work seen, you really needed to be a member of one of these academies. And that wasn't always easy. It wasn't easy sometimes either to be in the academies because they restricted the ways you could work. If you had a style that was a little different, you were in for maybe a little bit of criticism or maybe quite a lot. You might be excluded in certain ways. So the art academies really controlled everything from the beginning. Now, we've traced how controversies developed from the very beginning, and at the beginning they weren't quite as polarized, but there were definite opinions about what art should do, right? Whether it should appeal to the intellect or the emotions. But the artists at least agreed the problem was really about how to appeal to people with the truth. How do you get the point across to your viewer? Now, as things develop, we have those two currents of intellect and emotion kind of always in tension, right? And that's a good way to put it. It's not really a conflict, but it is tension. So you see these things sometimes, in extremes, but often balanced in the work of a lot of academic painters. But as time goes on, because there are philosophical shifts happening in the culture, this tension between intellect and emotion becomes a kind of a battle between two different philosophies, one of which puts intellectual life at the center of our human experience, and the other which puts emotional life at the center. And these are very, very different philosophies. They don't agree on the nature of the controversy. So the realist painters are appealing to the intellect and saying, we need to look at the world as it is. We need to look at it dispassionately, objectively, and present it straightforward in the way that we see it. And this is part of this intellectual development that has happened since the Enlightenment, that we can rely on our intellectual observations and the information of our senses, but not on anything else. So the Romantics, of course, come at it from a completely different direction. They distrust science. They distrust the Industrial Revolution. They don't like the idea of scientists saying, well, we figured everything out and this is what human beings are. We're bags of chemicals and our brains work in a certain way, and that this explains everything about human life. And so the Romantics are appealing against that with some sort of undefined, they don't really know, mysterious, transcendental experience of nature and everything else in life, So your experiences with people, with society, with nature, with your own life are basically an encounter with some sort of force beyond, our understanding. And it appeals mainly through the emotions. It's something that stirs us inside in a way that we don't quite understand. So the Romantics and the Realists are way past an argument about, what art should do. They're really arguing about what life is, right? And there's something else that we haven't considered yet that is sort of the elephant in the room during this 19th century controversy. And it's huge. It's a development that would rival, I think, the development of personal computers or the internet or anything like that. It changes fundamentally how we relate to images. And it throws artists and the art world into an existential crisis. And we haven't even talked about it yet. And I think it is important in these developments between the realists and the Romantics and everything else. And that is photography. The first photograph that we know of, the first one was made in 1826, I think, or 27 by Nicephore Niepce, a Belgian guy with a weird name. It's pretty crude, but it's the beginning of something. By 1839, just a scant 10 years later, Louis Daguerre has developed a photographic system building on Nicephore Niepce's work that is reliable, that's repeatable, the components of which are available just about everywhere, He doesn't patent this, he gives it away to the world, and it basically explodes on the world and changes things pretty much overnight. By the time we get to the American Civil War, if you're familiar with that at all, it's well documented photographically. We have photographs of Abraham Lincoln. We have photographs of you know, General Grant in the field. We have photographs of battles and battle scenes, and so it only continues to grow. And this throws artists into a completely different category than they had been in the society. Before, if you wanted a visual record of anything, you needed an artist. You had to have an artist. Now we have the camera doing that. And so we have these ideas about now, what does the image mean? What do artists do? What is art for now? And so these kind of questions are in the air and flying around, and a lot of people don't know what direction things are going to go. So next time we'll look at one answer to that, which was Impressionism.